Hi everyone, back to the More YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And yeah, it's all about our manager. We covered a little bit about this on What's Going On. After a few turgid performances and some frustrations about the formation, there is some doubt, I think, creeping into some minds of Newcastle fans about the manager, about Eddie Howe, and whether he may be here for the long term. I'll give you my take on this in a minute, how I feel about the situation, but I can't blame other people for feeling this way. We're not a channel that shoots people down for questioning the manager's tactics, questioning some of the decisions he makes, questioning some of his loyalty to players. I think as football fans, it's your God-given right to have an opinion on something. If you don't like the way a guy plays, you don't like a particular player who's playing who looks like he's woefully off form, it's your God-given right as a football fan to voice that opinion. Whether you go to every single game, whether you're on the other side of the world, you can totally entitled to voice that opinion and have a space where you can say that without being attacked. Unfortunately, on social media and things like that now, you can't do that because people are just out to get you and jump. No matter what you say, whether what you're saying is good or right or accurate or statistically backed up, they're going to get you anyway. But what's happening with Newcastle right now in terms of how the polar opposites of what we are this season and last season, it is drawing people to start looking at the manager a little bit more detail. And I don't know whether this story that we're going to talk about is just literally media looking to fill pages and they're just talking about this. But if you haven't seen already, there was the story doing the rounds on social media, and it was all through the German media, which I think was called their Sports Bild, which linked Newcastle United to this stylish-looking bastard right here. That is Julian Nagelsmann, who is currently the German national coach. Now, you know all about Julian Nagelsmann. He's basically like, if I say he's the German Eddie Howe, that's maybe a little bit of a downplay to Nagelsmann, because you're actually looking at, or Nagelsmann, if I want to be posh, looking at his statistics as a manager. He's actually had a phenomenal early stage in his career as a manager, almost kind of Pep-like in terms of his revolutionary way of managing in the Bundesliga. So he had to retire early as a player with a bad knee injury, much like Eddie Howe, but he jumped straight into the job at TSG Hoffenheim, Joe Litton's old club, and he had a 40% win ratio there. And Ralph Rangnick, obviously once at Manchester United, really liked what Nagelsmann was doing, and he put him into the job at RB Leipzig, where he really kind of made his name for himself. And he had a 56 win ratio there. We played 95 games, won 54 and only lost 19. He then moved to the behemoth that is Bayern Munich, which was his job just before the German national job. And the win ratio there was 71.43%, which is phenomenal. I know it's Bayern Munich. I know they're the boss, the Bundesliga, but he still has to get the best out of players as well. And he obviously had to adjust as well all through his managerial career. So just a stats at Bayern Munich, he played 84, he won 60, drew 14, and only lost 10 during that time. And anyone who's watched Nagelsmann, Mark's a football connoisseur of football all around the globe. I'm not as learned as he is, but I know all about Nagelsmann. I know kind of what he's done as a coach. And one thing that Nagelsmann offers you is innovation and change and the ability to move things around. He's changed formations at Hoffenheim and Leipzig and Bayern Munich when he's lost players or he's signed players. He's gone to a back three, five in midfield, three up front, or he's gone, kind of a five at the back. He's got his wing backs tucking in and inverting. He's pressing high with a single striker. He's got a double pivot in midfield, and he seems to change and move things around. And if something doesn't quite work, he goes, right, that's not going to work. I'm taking him out and putting him in. I'm doing this. And at the minute, that's the bit that's frustrating with Eddie Howe the most, I think, for Newcastle fans, is he doesn't seem to be changing things when things are going wrong. So, the system is there and the players can't operate in the system. So with the likes of Nagelsmann, he'll change that system. He'll go to a back five, or he'll go to three, and then he'll push the two wing backs up, or he'll tuck people inside, or he'll go to defensive midfields if he's under pressure. But Eddie seems to just go, right, I'll keep the same system and I'll just move these players around. And then the players invariably that he brings in aren't as good as the players who are on the pitch in the first place. So the whole system still doesn't work, and the quality of the player isn't as good. So this is what's leading to people getting massively frustrated, I think, with the manager. I personally am not calling for Eddie Howe to be out before anybody jumps in the comments and starts giving me shit. If you haven't listened to what I've been saying there, I can understand why some people might long for a change in a manager, is what I'm saying. But, it could be the total same thing. You look at what Eddie Howe did. Eddie Howe came in, he was completely innovative compared to Steve Bruce, and the previous manager before that. I mean, that wasn't particularly difficult, really, given the fact it was fucking Steve Bruce. Mike Bassett would have been more innovative than this tit. But Eddie came in and he changed the way we played, and we had a higher press and more intensity. And he moved Joe Litton from, a misfiring striker to this brilliant midfielder that he's become. So Eddie is innovative, and Eddie has, change Newcastle United and change the way that we play in it. And it's really easy to forget that with the difficult season that we've had and the amount of injuries, and you can't get away from it. The injuries have been ridiculous. Like I say, it's like a voodoo hex on the team, and the players that we've missed are huge players, influential players that make this team better. Nick Pope, the sweeper keeper, the back four go up 10, 15 yards. You get rid of that ball through for the need for a number 6, because Shaw's probably standing or Share's standing in the number 6 role. So we don't need a number 6 when Pope's there, because the defence feel better and push further up. Joe Linton, box to box midfielder, powerhouse, monster. We're missing his drive, we're missing his tackles. Joe Willock's ability to get the ball up the pitch, we've missed that all season. Tonali, a great footballer. We only seen little spells of him early on. We saw good bits, we saw not so good bits. He was settling into the team. Had he not been suspended for 10 months, who knows how good Tonali would have been. Alexander Isak's injuries, Wilson's injuries, Harvey Barnes' injuries, all of these things have contributed to Eddie Howe not being able to maybe be brave and dynamic with the team that he's had. He's had to make do with hard-working, honest players, but maybe not players that are good enough to take us up and evolve us to the next level, because other teams have figured us out from last season. That has definitely happened to this football team. Teams know what we were all about last season, and they've planned to play against us. And that's clever management by their managers to do that. They've changed personnel, they've moved things around. They're going, right, Dan Burns got a lack of pace, we'll move in there, put somebody fast out there or whatever. The midfield goes too high because now the back four is too far back. There's a big gap between them. We'll play a ball through the middle with ball-playing midfielders like Gibbs White and all that. People are doing that against us. Now, like I say, I see both sides of this argument. I personally wouldn't move Eddie Howe on, and Craig Hope was really quick to shoot this down. This is what he tweeted out, that he reiterated today that Eddie Howe is the man that the club are invested in. They believe in him for the long term, and they're making plans for a very busy summer. And that comes after reports in Germany that Nagelsmann is, obviously being linked to the football club. Now, I always say with these things, there's no smoke without fire. Whether his agent's been sounded out just as a question, and somebody's leaked it to the press, and that's how it's come out in the German media. That could very well have happened. All football managers are under pressure. I don't subscribe to this bollocks notion, that some of these people are putting out on Twitter with their blue ticks or X and the blue ticks saying Eddie Howe's under no pressure. I think you're deluded if you think that. Every single football manager in the world is under pressure. People doing normal jobs on a day-to-day basis are under pressure. You've got to get a deadline meet. You've got to do this. You've got to get orders out the door. You've got to transport goods. Everybody's under some form of pressure. Football managers are under huge amounts of pressure. Whether you're winning everything like Pep and Klopp, or whether you're struggling to stay in the league, like Daesh, or whether you find yourself in the middle somehow this season, like Eddie Howe, and he's got this huge project with all this expectation outside of the club and inside of the club even as well, and he's trying to manage that. He's got a like a bloody Saving Private Ryan scene full of injured bodies in the treatment table, but they're all starting to come back now, slowly but surely. We're probably missing the two most influential members of that injured party, which is Nick Pope and Joe Linton, but most of the players are coming back now. It was great to see Elliot Anderson get a bit of game time, great penalty smashing the players and tackles. Willock getting a goal against Arsenal. Isak need to come back, stay fit as well. This is great for the club, and in the run into the season, we need these players to be fit and firing. But there's a real danger that the season could tail off. We've just drawn Manchester City in the cup, which is a horrible tie. Away at the Etihad, we have got nothing to lose, so might as well go and throw the kitchen sink at it. But you look at it on paper and you think we're probably not going to win that tie, in all fairness. That could be us out of the FA Cup. We're sitting 10th in the table right now. I'm recording this pre-Wolves. If we don't get a result against Wolves, we get beat against Wolves. We've got, Chelsea after that. West Ham, they're fighting as well. Their manager's under pressure. If we have another 2 or 3, 4 bad results and find ourselves 13th or 14th, maybe ending the season in that position with no Europe and no cup, this particular link to somebody like Nagelsmann could grow and grow. I personally don't think the owners will pull the trigger. I think they do support Eddie. I think they like what he does. He's innovative. He's fresh. He's new. He's everything that Newcastle weren't before. That's our manager right now. And I think he does deserve time. I'm not a big believer in sacking managers quickly just because the milk turns sour. I think managers need time to make it right and put it right. I think there's been an internal battle between Ashworth and Howe. I really do believe that. I think that's the reason Ashworth's probably more interested in going to Manchester United, because Ten Hag has made such a balls of that signing process of players that I think Ashworth would be given the full control for that, which is what he wants. At Newcastle, I think Eddie wanted players. He wanted to vet them. He wanted to agree them. He wanted to have the final say. And Ashworth wanted to pick players for the future. And there was this going on between the two of them, heads clashing. And I think that's the reason why Ashworth wants to leave. So if Eddie's backed in the summer, you got the seller money, you got the Adidas money, we'll have to sign the right players. We can't be going out signing, with all due respect, Solankis and Billings, no matter how good of a season that they've had with Bournemouth. That ain't going to take us to the next level. We need to go and sign decent players. But again, going back to the Nagelsmann links, I've said this before, does Eddie Howe have the pull in the transfer market to spend that 200-300 million quid and get those big players, those game-changing players into the football club? That is a big question. We did sign Bruno, we did sign Botman, we did get Trippier. These are all big players. Isak as well, big players, well sought after in European football. Now, Isak had a rotten season with Sociedad, and we benefited from that because a lot of the teams that were linked to him fucked off and disappeared. But Trippier just won La Liga with Atletico Madrid, and he was a massive signing for us. Bruno Guimaraes was one of the most sought-after midfielders in European football, as was Sven Botman as a centre-half. So we do have the ability to sign these really good players that everybody wants. And Eddie Howe was the manager when we did that. And they wax lyrically about what Eddie Howe has done for them and how much they rate him as a manager. And that kind of reverberates through football to guys who look at those players and think, hey, do you know what? They're good players and they've gone there and they've done really well. But it's a results business, football. Eddie needs to start getting results, or these noise and these links to these managers are going to grow and grow and grow until something maybe does happen. But I just want to jump on and have my say about this. I don't think the Nagelsmann links are really true. But again, there's no smoke without fire. Somebody's heard something somewhere and they've thrown it out there, whether they're mischievous or not. But let us know in the comments below what you think about Nagelsmann being linked to the job. Just to give you a little bit of a comparison there, Eddie Howe's win ratio with us is 47%. Nagelsmann's currently with Germany, he's 25. He's only had 4 games, so you've got to be fair to him. So Eddie Howe's average win ratio in his career is 42.77%, and Nagelsmann's is 53.29. So there's not really a great deal in them in terms of managers if you look at it that way. So there's just a little bit of calmness, comparison, and understanding looking at it. But I will say Nagelsmann has got all these innovative qualities, and he changes things, and he moves things around and everything else, and that might make him appealing to a lot of people. But we'd love to hear from you guys. Smash a comment in. Let us know what you think about the Nagelsmann links. Are you sick of Eddie? Have you had enough? Do you think if we leave it too long, he's going to waste money on Bournemouth players and we're not going to get back to the Champions League positions? Do you want that change? Do you want Nagelsmann, or do you want Jose or something like that? Or are you happy to back the manager? I personally am. I think he's the right man for the job. I think he's the right man to take us forward. I think he's still a young manager. I think he's learning from this season. I think he's going to be a better manager for the hardships of this season. But he needs to start making tough decisions, big decisions. Stop being so loyal to players like Byrne, like Longstaff, like Almiron, who are letting them down time and time again. When he puts that trust in them and they're putting in shit performances, he really has to up his game as a manager and show them players, if you don't perform, you're out and somebody else is in. That's my take on him. I hope he does it. I hope he's got it in him. He certainly looked like he's been a bit more tougher these last few games in the press conferences. He's got a lot more kind of authoritative and right down the middle, and the players need to up their game and play for this manager if they want him to stay in the job for the long term. But let us know what you guys think. We always like to hear from you. If you like what you're watching, subscribe, smash that button. It's all free content, Nevermore. If you want to give a little bit about the channel, there's an option down there too for you. Be a member. You get early access to videos just like the one you've watched. Have a cracking day wherever you are, everybody. And let's hope Eddie starts winning games and takes all this noise away from him, because we want Eddie to succeed. Have a cracking day wherever you are, everyone. See you later. Cheers.